So the temperature ranged from -20 to -30, which means at -30, if you expose your hand for more than about a minute, you've really got problems trying to get warm again.
Especially if wind chill.
Yeah, the wind chill effect is what really can make it treacherous. So, of course, you've always got gloves on and you're always protecting your face. The second thing, it's not only dealing with the temperature, but you've got 24-hour sunlight. So you've got to get used to sleeping with basically the lights turned on all the time. And thirdly, the landscape is a bit like a lunar landscape, if you imagine it, with big blocks and chunks of ice everywhere. But it's just in white. But the fascinating thing is when you come up to these pressure ridges, which is basically where the ice shelf is just smashing against itself, driven by the wind and the tides, it forms these great big ridges, and blocks of ice the size of houses, and beautiful colours of the ice, when you see that translucent blue, just fabulous.
And forgive me,
special.
So what is the noise? Because obviously, overwhelmingly, there's an emptiness, but there is a lot of ice movement, isn't there, and a lot of wind. So what are the kind of noises you're surrounded by?
Well, when you're walking, all you hear is your skis and your sledge. We're pulling 45-kilo sledges each. So you hear the sound of your skis on the ice and the snow. But when you stop, you're right, there's absolutely no bird life, and people worry about polar bears. If a polar bear is near the North Pole, it really is in trouble. But we were lucky. It doesn't always happen, but one day in particular, we could hear the ice grinding against itself. You could hear it sort of a low moaning, grinding noise in the background. And you realise, and you come across these leads, which is what basically are open water. And you can tell that one lead on the last day that we crossed, within about a nautical mile of the North Pole, we had to take quite a risk crossing this lead because the ice was only sort of 24, 36 hours old.
Now, James, how because you look like a young and fit man, for people who aren't for people who aren't watching this, who are listening on the radio, James looks like you look like you're in magnificent nick. So what was it like taking the old man to the North Pole with you? Was he able to keep up?
Well, he gave me heaps of his gear to carry, so I was going down a bit, but no, he kept up fine. It was long days, but it was constant. So you're dragging your sled constantly for what we did was an hour and 15-minute pushes. So we skied constantly for an hour and 15 minutes, and then we break for 15 minutes, and we followed that religiously all day. And we do about 6 of these pushes a day. So roughly about 8 hours of full-on skiing each day, and then basically straight into the tent, get some food in you. And a big part of it is you can't supplement the calorie intake. You're burning about 8,000 calories by skiing each day, and you can't eat that much. Carrying that much food is impossible, and it's just difficult to eat 8,000 calories worth of food. So you are losing weight each day.
So what's it like when you get there? Do you feel triumphant? Is it moving? What the actual moment of being at this wonderful point, the North Pole, where Santa lives, obviously, and we hear so much about. What's it like being there?
Well, it's there's always a sense of anticipation, and even for us, when we hit our last stop, we were only at 1 nautical mile, and as I said before, you don't actually know whether you can get there. Because if you come across a great big lead,
or an open water gap between 2 ice sheets,
then you may not actually be able to get there. So, and we had quite a lot of trouble crossing that last mile, nautical mile. So when you get there, it's really exciting. There's that sense of anticipation that you've been thinking about for all those days, and part of it is really just enjoying the moment of being in a special place. You're absolutely remote. You're miles from anywhere or anyone, and that in itself makes it special. But when you're there as a team, and I was lucky enough to have James with me, it's a really special moment of just, and you've got to stop and pause. When I went to the South Pole, I had a colleague who was in a hurry, and I kept saying to him, this is the one time in your life that you never hurry, because you're unlikely ever to come back here, and you've just got to take the moment to enjoy it.
Mm. An interesting thing about the North Pole as well is that unlike the South Pole, where there's this big American research base,
Yeah.
the North Pole is on an ice sheet, and the ice sheet is constantly moving. For example, while we're up there, the ice sheet was drifting about 1.5 kilometers each day. So that North Pole is only a North Pole for a brief moment of time. You get the GPS out, you find your 90 degrees, and that's your North Pole. Probably never to be the same again. You plant your flag, you take your photos, but there's no landmark, there's no marker at the North Pole. It's your North Pole, what you make of it.